I'm Chris Williams from Cyclone Fanatic, and a proud Iowa State graduate from the class of 2007. No one shows up like Iowa State fans. And Cyclones support Cyclones on and off the field. Your gift can provide scholarships to students, fund groundbreaking research. We could even drum up opportunities for the marching band. Visit MoveWhatMatters.com to learn how you can make an impact today.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cyclone Fanatic postgame show. I'm your host, Leah Nelson. Connor Ferguson is joining me in the studio to talk about Iowa State men's basketball falling to Oklahoma State tonight. But before we get started, as always, let's thank our sponsors, starting off with our friends over at Channel Seed. They are the title sponsor for both the men's and women's shows this year. Super excited to have them on board. They are great people and great Iowa State fans. And then we've got our friends over at Keen Project Solutions. They are celebrating 10 years of innovation, serving ag, industrial, and commercial customers with pride. Be part of a team that values your dedication and turns your expertise into impactful solutions. Visit thinkdifferentthinkkeen.com to apply today. And then we've got our buddies over at Raymond James Financial Advisors, Clay and Chase Natuzel. They're a family of lifelong Cyclone fans assisting clients with all their financial needs. For over 32 years with offices in Carroll, Ames, and Ankeny. Connect with Clay and Chase Natuzel at raymondjames.com/Natuzel. Thanks to all of our sponsors. All right, Connor, give it to me straight. What are your initial thoughts right after that really, really tough loss?
Yeah, that's a bad one for sure. Obviously, the comment section has blamed every player and the refs for the loss. So at least we're hitting on all cylinders there. It might be the worst loss in TJ Otzelberger's tenure as far as expectations going into a game, but we don't need to debate that level, I guess. But the just lack of organization, I don't want to say effort, but it felt like hustle was the 50-50 balls. Iowa State was getting beat a lot tonight, and just not a recipe for success. Arturo Dean pickpocketed Taman Lipsey a few times. It just all over the place. There were faults in Iowa State, and they did not have any ingredients that they needed to get that win tonight.
You know, what do you obviously there's a million things we could talk about. But you know, you thought the game would go differently, obviously, because they're playing Oklahoma State, but also you've got Curtis Jones back, and they played so well against Houston without Keyshawn and Curtis. So, you know, what do you think was the difference maker tonight?
Yeah, so that game you have, your two leaders out. You're against a team that you're not favored to beat by any means, and you have that kind of aspect of, hey, we're going to wear our hearts on our sleeves and go win this for them. And you have this tonight where you're heavily favored. You're expected to win this game. You're expected to run over this team, quite honestly. Go back and watch us pregame. That's what we expected to happen. And it's a combination of a few things. I don't think Taman Lipsey is, at all healthy right now. He looked the least healthy he has looked, and Oklahoma State turning that game into a track meet did not help him at all with that. And then you have just kind of a nothing performance from Deshaun Jackson. Jefferson was really good in the margins at very specific times, I want to say, and then he was a non-factor at times as well. The defensive effort tonight I didn't think was there. And on top of it all, probably the sloppiest, worst turnover game that we've seen in 2, 3, 4 seasons under TJ Otzelberger.
Yeah, it didn't look like the Iowa State we're used to seeing. Really tough. And I've talked about this on a bunch of other shows as well. It's hard to come ready to play a team that on paper you are supposed to beat the brakes off. It is really tough, but you would think at this point of the season, and as well as the men's team is doing, that game would have definitely gone differently. So it's just kind of it's tough to swallow, and obviously we can see that in the comments, but I know a lot of people are curious about what this means for postseason. So any intel on that?
Yeah, so you're going to drop out of the top 10. I saw some people talking about that it was arbitrary, the top 10 streak. I think that's something you can pride yourself on, especially if that got longer and longer. So that does suck, and it does matter. You know, the kid I talked to, Dominicus Plata, the 2020 late 2025 recruit that Iowa State added, was telling me about how he just saw them constantly in the rankings with a low number or a high ranking, right? It does matter where your program's at and where you are in that poll, as arbitrary as it seems sometimes. And I think they had a guy that ranked Iowa State 23rd on Monday. There's faults with every ranking system and stuff, but they're going to drop out of that. I think you're going to drop around a 3 seed. I don't think this is enough to push them to a 4. I don't know. If you say, like, yeah, that team doesn't deserve a 2 or a 3 tonight, I saw a couple comments like that too. Yeah, if they play like that tonight, the next 3 games and the 27 before that, but they weren't playing like that, right? They look like a completely different team. So you got a lot of stuff to iron out after that one. You have to get back to the drawing board. And there's also the aspect of you have to look at the rest of the top, or I guess teams ranked 7th through 12, 13, 14, 15, and see what they do. There's a lot of basketball left to be played. There's a lot of movement still to be had. And yeah, all you can do is try to win the games that you have in front of you. And, you know, they're obviously going to go back to the drawing board and figure something else out after tonight. But very important to try and get Keyshawn back Saturday if he's healthy enough.
Yeah, like you talked about, games left that before the tournament. So looking ahead, Iowa State's got Arizona, a tough one, number 22, on Saturday. Then they've got 25 BYU and then Kansas State. You know, what can we hopefully see from Iowa State, or what do we really need them to do in these last 3 conference games?
You've got to, the big one is BYU. You've got to stay in front of them to secure that top 4 seed, to get the double bye in the Big 12 tournament, to not play an extra game. Now, it would turn into an extra game if you won the ones you're supposed to, and you just don't know which ones you're going to win. But you don't want to be in that second round either when you've been a top 4 seed all year, and you're, on the other side of things, you're going to play better competition the further you are down the line. So that's really big to me. Is I think the BYU game is the one that sticks out the most right now. And other than that, yeah, you just have to try and finish this one out strong. And I guarantee you they come with a different effort on Saturday. It's probably going to be a rough practice the next time around. They're not going to get ran. It's not the early 2000s or anything like that. But, this coaching staff's not going to be happy with that effort. And we've seen games where they've played like that, and the next game it gets better because you just need a wake-up call. And this is Iowa State's wake-up call. Either get up afterwards or you stay down on the ground. We'll see what this team has in it. But, you can count the Pittsburgh game as one, I suppose. But other than that, I've never seen a TJ team not wake up to the call.
I've seen a lot of comments too about people saying, the guys don't look 100% healthy and whatnot. And
they're not. They're not
yeah,
close.
Exactly. They're not close. And Chelsea and I have talked about this too on the women's side, like across the board, across all teams, people are really hurting, whether it's injury wise or just it's cold and flu season. I know that sounds silly saying it, but people are dealing with sickness, and that when you're running up and down the court and playing fast basketball, like Oklahoma State was tonight, like it's going to make the game tougher. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and I want to say too, because there's some comments about, and not specifically on this stream, but stuff I've seen on Twitter tonight. I know Iowa State's fan base is not the middle of the road. We're staying down the lane during a loss, but different teams have different injury luck, right? Some teams get away with the whole year. They don't seem to have an issue. Well, Oklahoma State hasn't really had anything to play for. If there was a guy that was 50-50 and you're playing the number 1 team and you're in the race for a Big 12 championship, he probably plays. Whereas if you're out of it completely, that guy's not going to play. Iowa State plays 8 guys. If one of them gets hurt, it's 12.5% of your lineup, right? It is such a big impact, and they're not all going to be healthy the entirety of the year. And it comes down to, hey, how lucky can you get to dodge this bullet when this injury happens, how long this guy's going to be out, how quickly he gets back. And we saw Milan Momcilovic get back quicker than anticipated. You can handle it as well as possible and still not have good injury luck. It's just the nature of the beast. And you're not playing that many guys. It's all luck at the end of the day. You're not recruiting any kids on like, oh, he's never going to get injured. He has that high, pain tolerance. It just isn't that simple. And sometimes it just bites you. And tonight it really bit Iowa State.
Do you think we'll be able to see Keyshawn back on Saturday? Because I'm really hoping that we can have him against Arizona.
Yeah, the vibes I got from it was that it sounded like this game was more doubtful than Saturday. And obviously that's kind of the case when you're sitting out for a muscle strain in the first place. I thought his injury and him sitting out the Houston game with Curtis Jones out was more precautionary than it was a very big necessary need. Obviously, he sat out tonight too. So you look at if he's back Saturday, that's a good sign. If he's not, probably not a great sign, but not anything to really panic about because we haven't heard much about this. And on the flip side, Taman's playing with a thumb injury. His shoulder isn't great. He's a hobbled veteran at this point. He looked like one tonight for the first time in a few games. So you get an extra day rest playing on a Tuesday, I suppose. And, that's what you get at this time of year. Like instead of 3 days rest for Saturday, you got 4. And that's all that you're going to get in the Big 12. And it's unfortunate you play in such a tough conference, but that's just the reality of the situation.
So to summarize it all, what I'm hearing, Iowa State's going to be all right. They've got to really, really compete these last 2 games. But if tournament goes well, 3 seed is what I'm hearing. All right.
Yeah, I'd put them around a 3 seed if I was guessing tonight. And, if you're pissed about a loss on February 25th, just think about it's all a crapshoot at the end of the day, and 2 weeks decides what you remember the entire season off of. So that's what I love and hate about this sport, especially in the moment, is like I'm looking at all these and some guy said I watch all the McDermott and Prohm years and I've never seen a team play worse. And I kind of chuckled at that because there's quite a few worse performances during those years. But no, it all comes down to March. You got to get ready for March. At this point, you're not in contention for a 1 seed. The 2 is looking less likely. Fall where it may, you're going to be a top 4 and view it like a wrestling team and just get your team right, get everything going in that direction and peak at the right time. Because that's where they were ascending to until Milan got hurt. And that was kind of the point in the season where it's kind of started going down again. Get up, get the arrow going that way, top right corner or whatever you call that, and advance on to March. Positive from tonight. Nate Heisey for the 3rd game in a row has a season high. I think did he have 13 or was it more, Aiden?
He's checking. I can see him.
Yeah, here we go. 13 points for Nate. So yeah, 3rd straight game with a season high for him. He's playing great basketball. He looks like a pest out there. That's what we call him in hockey. He was clapping. I tweeted about that with as soon as Oklahoma State got that technical. And I love that out of him. If you're going to be that guy that's not scoring as much, be annoying, get the other team off their game as best you can. I really loved what I saw out of him, loved what I've seen out of him the last 2 games. And rest of the way, you just, hope the direction turns that way and you keep going towards March and get back on the right path.
1,000%. I love that you end in a positive. I know not many people agree with that, but there are still a few positives we can take away, even though that was a really tough game. I mean, we don't have to beat around the bush. Like that was a bad game for Iowa State. Everyone knows that. We all know it. But I mean, it's in the past. Let's move on. Lots of season left. So kind of, but we can hope. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Charged moments in every game coming up for sure.
1000%. Thank you, Connor, for hopping on tonight. I really appreciate. Like we said earlier, Iowa State is taking on Arizona on Saturday, March 1st at 8 p.m. So everyone, make sure you tune into the pregame show. Thanks to our sponsors. We've got our title sponsor, Channel Seed, Keen Project Solutions, and Raymond James Financial Advisors. And as always, thank you to Aiden for producing. Go Cyclones.